Hey everybody, it's Buster. Battles with Bust number 416, and today we're doing battle in a Ruthless Rumble. And so, I had intended to play in the Mastering Runeterra Open event this week. I had a family event come about, was unable to play, but we do find ourselves able to come out and play the Ruthless Rumbles. And so at least we get a little bit of our best of three fix. I'm so excited that the best of three season is finally here, and we get to dive on in. And so, as I say at the beginning of all of our best of three videos, if you're wanting to see an individual guide on any of the decks that we're playing today, you can just scroll backwards through the channel. Today we're going to be playing Fizz, Mount Targon, Jax, Ornn, and Samira Pantheon. We've covered all three of those decks in this standard format, and we'll just take a little bit talking about the lineup instead of that. So if you're wanting to skip ahead to the gameplay, feel free. But as it is, we'll talk about these matchups here real quick. And so the idea I initially had with this lineup was that we were just going to ban the Fizz deck. This is a format to where it's very reasonable and very okay to just say, okay, well, I'm going to bring the Fizz deck because it's the best one in the format, and then I'm also just going to ban it if our opponent brings it as well. But as I've really started to kind of like dig in and have a lot of these matchups turn up, it's not entirely necessary to ban out the Fizz deck. I feel pretty comfortable in the mirror match. The Jax Ornn deck has a few different flash freezes that are capable of attacking the Zolanis, and then it also has the big Overwhelm package to attack through the smaller units, so that's great. And then a lot of the same things apply to the Samira Pantheon deck. We've got 3 copies of Tellstones, 2 copies of that dude that silences an enemy follower, and then the big Overwhelms that you can get out of Pantheon can attack the strategy in the same way. And so we most certainly don't have to ban out the Mount Targon Fizz deck. We will if it pops up. And it feels like that it's kind of appropriate, but it's not entirely what we're going to be looking to ban out today. Otherwise, the things that I don't really like running into this with this deck list are going to be down here at the bottom with Samira Jinx. What we'll commonly see as these matchups pop up is our opponents will just ban out the Fizz deck. Then Samira Jinx is exceptionally strong against both Jax Ornn and Samira Pantheon, so we'll kind of keep that one in mind. And then the same deal applies with decks like Heimerdinger Jayce. We're looking towards this control deck space to be in one of 2 different kind of things that we really like to attack. So if we're thinking of something like Gnar Jhin or Norra Jhin, whatever flavor of that deck is coming out that just attempts to flood the board with units, we tend to be able to handle that pretty okay, right? If the opponent just has a bunch of bad units on the board and a bunch of 1 damage ping spells, we could just overwhelm that with our big Jax-based units or with our Pantheons and the like. And so that's the kind of matchup that we can kind of have stick around. The other thing that we're kind of interested in is how good are our silences going to be, kind of incidental to all of the Siren Songs deck. And so if you start to look at a deck like a Lowy Swain, you are able to really come in and attack the tentacles with the silences, and so it's not something that we're really looking to ban out. But if we look at the more classical decks like Heimerdinger Jayce that has the Vengeance-based removal suite and a bunch of heal and stuff in it, those tend to be a little bit more problematic. You can even see the Caitlyn Teemo that we've marked off up here. Not a matchup that I ever felt like I was really going to ban, but it's something that doesn't line up well with our decks. And so we'll just have to see what the opponents bring, right? If they have one of these kind of big problem matchups like the Samira Jinx or the to a lesser extent, things like Heimerdinger Jayce, we'll consider banning those out. But at the end of the day, I still feel pretty comfortable banning out the Fizz deck. And so, to speak to our deck lists themselves, the Fizz Mount Targon deck that we're playing, this one is the version that just has a bunch of cycle in it. I really like this deck in the sense that it's so important to come out and draw your Siren Songs and to draw your Reaver's Rose that having all of the additional card draw to up that consistency really helps. And so we're playing the full set of Guiding Touches and Pale Cascades and Eye of Nagakoboroses along with the 2 copies of Pull Shark to help that early game cycle for the decks to where we don't draw the Siren Song right off the bat. Otherwise, fairly standard and straightforward with the deck list here. Up with Jax Ornn, this is another deck where nothing too crazy is going on. The thing that I like to call out with this is we're playing both Ruthless Raider and Bellows Breath. These really help attack those go-wide defensive style strategies that you see from Norra and that you see from Gnar. Basically, all the Bandle City decks that look to just put a bunch of bad units on the board. The Bellows Breath and the Ruthless Raider give us good protection from the 1 damage pings while also giving us some AoE board clear. The other thing to call out with Bellows Breath, it's a fantastic card against the opposing Fizz decks. Having this remove 2 or 3 units is exceptionally strong. especially since it can kill a bunch of units even after a Siren Song hits the board. And so gives us a little bit of an edge in that Fizz matchup should we need to play it. Last but not least, this is our flavor of Samira Pantheon that I like to play. We have a very heavy 2-drops package in this with full sets of Samira, the Youngling, the Cultist, and then the Sacrificial Scholar. This gives us a lot of early game blockers, a lot of early game plays should we come up and face the more aggro style decks of the format. And then to help those units have their boosts, we have the full 6 Darken equipment as well. Outside of that, the choices are fairly straightforward. We're playing the 3 Targonian Tellstones, the 2 Blinded Mystics as our Silence package, and then the 2 copies of Transfusion are the kind of oddball that you don't always see. That can be a very useful combat trick given that it can do stuff like deal 1 point of damage to the Sacrificial Scholar, have that count as a faded, have that count towards his last breath, and then put a +2/+2 onto Samira and just get a ton of value out of a combat. And so, those are the decks. That's what we're doing battle with today. Before we jump in, you know what we got to do, though? We got to go and pay that pay-to-win price, and we're almost completely paid up with these decks. The only things lacking at this moment in terms of being premium are going to be Zolani. That's who we're going to hit here today. That's who we're going to hit right now. And then there was some epic over in epic over in the Eternal deck, whatever this is, the Ornn deck. I forget what it was. Who are you? We have to look you up. It's not the Icedale Cultist. We just turned that premium here recently. Gotta find it though. It's gonna eat me alive if I don't remember who we've neglected to turn premium. Let's just get it. I feel bad now at this point. Is it over in this one? Oh, it's the Sacrificial Scholar. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and mark him as well. I don't want him feeling bad after we forgot about him. And so, good stuff. Everybody's premium. Good to go. Let's hop on in. The 1-drop pool party. Are we playing Eternal? Soul Fighter Samira. Ready to go. Jump on into battle. And so yeah, I'm pretty happy with this lineup. I took this to a 5-0 yesterday. Didn't feel like I had too much trouble there. A lot of the matchups that we were expecting turned up. The only thing we didn't run into that I'm curious how this Mastering Runeterra tournament plays out in terms of people trying to play triple Siren Songs decks. I don't think it's going to be that big of a thing, but that's the only thing I haven't really run into that I'm curious about. So with this is a pretty easy ban here on the Nautilus deck. Nautilus does a lot of the same things that our decks do, just better. And so if you're wanting to think of having, say, Ornn up against Nautilus, you know, we're getting our 1 big super unit, and then they eventually just get like 5. And so we can't really combat the Nautilus deck. It also has things like Vengeance to give Samira problems. It's a very easy takedown here. As far as the rest of these are concerned, all of our decks are fine against Jhin, and then we do have the full set of silences in all of our decks to help combat against Evelynn. So cool. Let's jump on in. All right, and then a reasonable enough start here. The thing I'll typically say against Jhin is I typically hard mulligan for Siren Song, but this isn't a matchup to where it's necessary. I'm going to go ahead and hang on to this one because we do have this really odd and interesting start to where we have the double Shell Shocker, so we can come down and just throw down a bunch of units, but then we also have the Siren Song to go along with it. It's typically just way too slow against the likes of Jhin, since spending 4 mana to not prevent any damage is just a recipe for disaster. And so I think we have a little bit of something here with the Siren Song, though, since we have the sort of 2 mana discount as far as these Shell Shockers are concerned. Now on this board, I'm happy enough to just start adding more dudes. There's only 1 card that would really cause problems for us by adding stuff to the board, and that would be the Stunbird. And so if he came at us with Stunbird, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but as it stands, I'm happy to trade with any of these things. If he plays a Tusk Speaker, I'm happy to trade with it. Nothing too problematic happening with the way that early game went.
If you do not have a part to play, take one.
All right, the stage hand comes in. Still not too worried about this board. We can just throw away a Shell Shocker in front of the stage hand to prevent the damage. Getting the chance to come in and build up with the Siren Song is huge, though. Get this big Picket Pocker on the board. It's too bad he's not a. It's too bad that he's not a a lifesteal unit, that would probably just seal the game as it is. But we'll take the block. I think that's fine. Are we gonna open attack next turn? Like, we have all these Pale Cascades and we need to cast them at some point, right? I think we can risk a stun just to try and get some more stats on the board. Or I'm sorry, get some card draw off of these Pale Cascades. So we don't need to put the spell shield onto Fizz. He's not too scared about any of the cards coming out of Jhin, but it is kind of interesting having the spell shield on the pocket picker, since if he wants to play a big stun, if he wants to play a stun bird, it just soaks up. It soaks up that ability. It's quite strong. So this is great, right? He's adding in the stage hand. We don't have to worry about blocking it. We're not going to get to slam in and attack this round, but it's completely okay. Thank you. Still attack with Fizz. There shouldn't be any way for him to kill the Fizz with only 2 mana. He can hit him with a pirouette or something, but it's not enough to get a lethal. All right, looking good. All these guiding touches. I mean, when you're at this stage of the game with a bigger board against Jhin and at 17 health, you have to be feeling pretty good and pretty strong. But having this extra 4 heal is kind of a big deal as well. Let's just go ahead and play one of these guiding touches, see if we find a unit. There's the bad boy. There's the trump card, if you will. Opponent can't love seeing him come down. Alright, block. So we should lose our Shell Shocker and then kill both of his units, only falling to 16. Yeah, that feels good. That feels good right there. Gonna have to worry about this Jhin coming down flipped. He has that ability to blast you to the nug for 4 on an attack, but still looking pretty healthy. I'm not too worried about that Jhin attack on the next turn. Alright, yeah, just continue getting as much as we can on board. His blocks all suck, and so it's not that big of a deal. What do we got now? Another Fizz? He's interesting. You can get a pretty good playful trickster this turn.
Devotion to battle.
If he blocks too unaggressively and leaves himself at 3, a very good chance we could get the playful trickster on Fizz and just kill this turn. He is blocking unaggressively. Sure. So he might have a way to take Fizz down. I mean, if he's got a Nox and Fervor onto Fizz, the game's just done at that point. So no real worries on that front. Two Jhins in hand. Okay. GG. Game just felt so easy. That's one of the things I've really noticed with this Mount Targon deck is you can just build up so much stats. It doesn't matter how well your opponent plays. They just can't come up with that mountain of card advantage, and so seems like opponent played quite well there. No disrespect in calling the match easy, but that's just the way it feels sometimes with the Siren Song deck. Oh, right. This is a more challenging matchup for us. Samira Pantheon can struggle against this. We're going to come in and just look for our early game plays. So we'll hang on to the Sacrificial Scholar, but we want to find more of those 2-drops, right? We want Samira's. We definitely want to find things like Cosmic Youngling. Nothing turned up, so we're going to be counting on this Scholar to do a lot of work.
Come on, Tibbers. It's playtime. It's
can be quite scary against Annie Jhin, right? You don't really want to be building up one super unit against this stack, right? They have so many stuns. You want to really spread your width across the board. It's just not what our hand is capable of doing right now.
No one's the wiser.
All right, there's a big boy though, ready for combat. And the bird, sure thing. Yeah, it's a kind of a scary open. It's nice to see the Lunari Cultist turn up just to make sure that we have another unit, just another play. It's also a card that could come in and just block Annie. I suspect opponent's going to open attack here, and we do just have this kind of free takedown on Annie, which I think we want to take. She's getting pretty close to flipping at this point. She's seen 4 skills. So let's just drop it here. We can Pale Cascade for +2/+2 if we need to. But yeah, this is kind of a scary round. Sometimes I'll recommend coming out and say blocking the Legion Saboteur here. This is going to be the biggest source of damage that we can kill, right? A lot of times we'll talk about just preventing every single point of damage that you can. And it's kind of similar blocking the Saboteur and the Crimson Pigeon, since the Saboteur is going to attack next round and get that guaranteed damage in. But I think with Annie so close to hitting on Tibbers, we need to just get her removed from the board.
Deluded fools.
But we're starting to get some stats out here. Starting to get a little bit of that something going.
For the glory of Noxus.
Might also get a surprise hush onto the Crimson Pigeon just for a 2 damage prevent. See how that turns up. All right, more dudes. Excellent.
True power eclipses both day
So I
and
don't care.
night.
If he comes in and plays a stun this turn onto the Sacrificial Scholar, that feels like a win to me. Like, ideally, we'll get this board set up to where we're going to get to attack this round. But if he's just dropping stuns onto this guy, then I think we're definitely in good shape there. All right, let's bring it.
Routes closed.
It's been brought. Ooh, we're getting blocks. Beautiful, beautiful. So I'm going to boost up one of these Lunari Cultists by 1. We should still get good blocks next turn, but with it lined up like this, we can still just block everything he has and kill everything. So I like the ability to shut down and open. Ooh, this is a recipe. Oh, so nice. I was going to say this is a recipe for disaster if he has the ability to drop a stun onto one of our units, but this is just looking good now.
End to war. Stand with me.
So we'll deal 1 to Dum Dum down here at the end, give our Sacrificial Scholar the +3/+3, and we can stop. This is kind of an interesting spot in the sense that I really want to play the Targonian Tellstones for the Behold the Infinite, and then see if we can't just high roll into Golden Sister. Like, we don't. Our hand doesn't really do anything next turn, right? I mean, we have just like a million spell mana, so we can wait till next turn before we would start and do something like that. But like, if you look at our hand, it's not doing anything else on this board, and so even if it misses and we just find any unit, I should say any unit that we can play, such a big deal there. But opponent's thinking forever. I would just think he has Nox and Fervor at this point. If he's got a Nox and Fervor a unit, then that's fantastic. I'm glad to see that come through. So now we can just play another Transfusion. We need to play both of these. Are we short on this? So if we transfuse, it's going to go up to 5, so it'll still die. No reason to do that, I guess. We could look to switch and then protect this cultist on the end, but I don't think I like that. Well, we did take that extra Annie damage, though, didn't we? That's kind of a bummer. We killed our unit, so Annie got to deal that 2 damage to us. He's played the wrong Jhin again. Good to know. He's kind of close to flipping. If Jhin flips next turn, we're going to be in trouble. Just taking that 4 damage hit. So, have to watch out for that. What you got for us, Behold the Infinite? There is no... there is no lifesteal. These units in here aren't very good. I think we're just stuck with the Warrior. He can come in and hook down the Annie. So we'll see where it goes in that sense. Yeah, it's tough. Like if we'd protected the 2 damage on the previous turn, we wouldn't have been able to play the Warrior here, but like how much healthier are we at 7 instead of 5? So thinking on that other Nox and Fervor, that's typically the only card they're capable of playing at this point. Sends it face. That should be enough, right? We'll have to see. We don't have any silences right now, so can't silence this Jhin as he flips.
You shall transcend.
Not a bad draw, my dude. Not a bad draw. So we fall to 1. Yep, that's what we'll have to find. See if we can't find a silence, and he tries to get clever by playing Tibbers first. No Cascade's not doing it. Gonna come down, Tibbers. Nice. So at least got that. So let's see what happens. So the stun thing comes in, certain. Alright, that's not it. How about this one? We don't have the mana to really do anything now. The Tellstones turns up, but we're going to be short. Alright, GG. That's tough. We didn't draw any of our real game breakers in that one. So we did have a couple of points there, though, to where we didn't try and prevent every single point of damage. And so that's one of the downsides of being in that spot. That's the way I typically look at the Annie Jhin match, because it's just so easy to outdo them in cards, right? They don't have any reach in their deck outside of maybe getting to deal 4 to the face with Jhin. So typically if you come in and just prevent every single point of damage, you just give yourself card disadvantage all day. Don't worry about it. Just stop every single point. You're okay. And so we could have taken a little bit more of that angle, right? We could have thrown away our Sacrificial Scholar earlier, but we're in a spot there as to where we had so many combat tricks in hand that it's very easy for us to just end the turn with no units on board, and then you're just like, oh cool, I've got two Pale Cascades and a Transfusion, you know? Like, what are we supposed to realistically do with that? Alright, but up against Evelynn Diana, I think I'm okay with the Lodestone and the Youngling. Let's get over the Lodestone. I kind of want to find a second unit to go with this. It's not enough on its own. You know, the Lodestone came back. Okay, reasonable enough.
Only a fool would enter battle unprepared.
See how fast we can't get this Pantheon out here doing work.
Temperamental as moon.
Find your own light within the darkness.
Yours is the light I cherish. Moon sister.
We'll get the Youngling in. I'm going to go ahead and hit the Youngling at the Ballista this turn, and then just override it next turn with the Wandering Shepherd. Since we do have this Pantheon in hand, I want to make sure that we start getting our targets every turn, because we're certainly not going to have a better late game than this opponent. Them having Zolanis and the like. Just too easy for them to get bigger than us. So let's see how this goes. There is a potential for this to go poorly, right? If he's got the Pale Cascade in hand and willing to throw stuff
We
away.
will resist.
He can take down the youngling here.
Cloaked in silver
Kind of
light.
sucks. I think it's a spot we need to be willing to take. Bummer. And then we'll load up with the Pot of Pain. Just make sure we're bigger than Diana at this point. Here's Samira. He's ready to party. Gotta wait till he attacks before she comes down, but
I'm always ready to play.
so there shouldn't be any Nightfall cards at this point, right? So we should be safe to just go ahead and add in Samira.
No need to make a name for myself. Just an impression.
Night descends.
What? What am I missing? Why would this ever be a thing? Right? There's no 1-mana tricks in Targon. Huh. Interesting. So the thing we can look to do on this next turn is just get a nice open attack here. We can look to give Samira a challenger and then hook in the Evelynn. Even if he has a hate spike, then this attack will all still work out well. And so I think I'm happy enough just to go for this. So we'll give Samira a challenger. I'm gonna drop in +2/+2. Hook Evelynn.
Oh dear.
Now we get these nice bonuses running around. Some good looking stuff right there. He's got to worry about more combat tricks as well with us having 2 mana up.
Our light grows brighter.
Got all your Pale Cascades today, didn't you, my friend? Okay. Still feels pretty good. We're going to be able to start threatening this Evelynn and then hit with Pantheon a couple turns from now. Oh boy, though, he found the regenerate husk ready to undo all of our work. I think it's gonna be okay. She's not the biggest deal at the moment.
We tend the fire and hope for her return.
See what's beneath while I see what's inside.
Through the darkness, I see.
All right, well, let's get the party started, right? We'll put the silence onto the Divine Clerk, see what happens in combat here. Probably just going to be brutal skirmishing off the Blinded Mystic into Evelynn. And then next turn will be good to drop a Pantheon, drop a Flare onto Samira. She's not going to be flipping this turn, right? But I think that's okay. I mean, we could... We'd have to just give up on a card, though.
Turn back.
I'm not really amped about that.
I cannot turn back.
Alright, not bad, not bad. Very strong board happening out here now.
I should stamp you out like the insect you are.
So I'm gonna... It's kind of an awkward spot here in the sense that we want to get the Pantheon flipped before he comes on board, but I mean, now that we've drawn Camp 4, everything has changed. We can actually wait a turn before we get Pantheon down. The thing we have to kind of worry about is Zolani coming in, right? And I do like the aspect here that we can play Camp 4 and we can get a hook in with Samira. So if they do have a Zolani, there's a chance that we can just eat one, right? So if he plays Zolani here, it eats the Enraged Husk. I'm not entirely certain how big it's going to be at this point, but we could have potentially taken down 2 units there. want a ballista? I was just envisioning the extra damage we were going to do with this Camphor, but having the extra stats onto Wandering Shepherd doesn't seem terrible. I'm going to hook in this Domination. This is the kind of scariest unit at this point. I don't think we need to worry about Diana. She's not really doing anything. The other thing that's kind of like going in my head is it's kind of nice to kill off these units that don't have any bonus attack, since it won't help level up a Zolani, right? Again, no way to tell where Zolani actually stands in terms of stats at this point, but, you know, he doesn't get the bonus stats off of these base units just dying, and so it makes me feel much safer.
Plenty of fire to go round.
Alright, then we're just good to go here now, right? Can't play Zolani. There's no other cards I think I really care about. I'm just going to drop the Ballista at this point.
Moonlight guide me.
To take down Camphor, that's fine. Gonna lose this Diana at the end of the turn.
Night descends. I will be heard.
Alright, feeling good. Feeling good. Well, he's finally out of Pale Cascades. I guess, well, some of those could have been Diana's, right? I haven't seen the backs of the cards. I didn't click on it to see if it was a natural Pale Cascade or if it was a Diana version. So I could have some more running around, but it's okay. Probably just picked up a Zolani and it says curses. I don't have the mana anymore.
Stop by. She's been missing.
Has she?
Okay.
Maybe I'll satisfy her cravings.
Maybe the Naganika won't be killing anything this round. Just, gosh, she hit regenerate again? That's been awkward. That's been awkward. Alright, but I'm going to take the extra target before we play Pantheon, see if we can't get a good set of skills on him, and then we'll see if we can't win the game through a overwhelm this turn. Curious if he's going to need the spell shield here. There's a very big incentive to drop it before we attack. So Pantheon has the spell shield already, so we can look to just spell shield the Naganika and then make an attack, or we can play the Lunari Cultist and use it to put a Faded onto Pantheon. But the scary thing with Pantheon is he didn't hit Challenger, right? He's got Impact, Quick Attack, Fearsome, Spell Shield, Regenerate, Tough. It's a very defensive set of abilities on him. It's like he hit like the literal worst of the abilities that he's capable of hitting. And so that's kind of a bummer. Yeah, we gotta worry about this a lot now.
Day and night.
He's not playing any cards. Like, it's just so brutal that he's able to block the Naganika with Evelynn and then have her not die. But the rest of his blocks aren't good after that.
In twilight. I'm armed. Am I?
Alright, well, let's see if what he's coming at us is going to be a Zolani or if he's got like a Hush. It's very odd that he hasn't played any cards up to this point. I'd like to imagine that after we played Pantheon and he didn't hit on Challenger, that if he had Zolani, he would have just played it. So I think we're okay in that sense. But it's definitely... It feels like we have an advantage, but this game is most definitely losable at this point.
I know that look.
Ignorant thrall. Scorn
Silences. Sure.
upon you.
Still lethal. LOL. I had to stop and double check that. He probably needed to move his blocks around, right? He needed to put his Evelynn in front of Pantheon. Since he took the overwhelm off the Naganika. But nonetheless, we got there at the end of the day. GG. That the silence onto the Divine Clerk felt so good. It's so nice seeing them play their high valued 1-drop with 2 husks, and then you just get to ace it. But alrighty. On to the next one. The full control lineup is here. We mentioned this a little bit. Karma Sett's, fine. I don't like playing Karma Set, but the matchups aren't terrible. We're reasonably well lined up to deal with the Norra front of just flooding the board with bad units and 1 damage ping. So we're going to come in and we're going to drop the ban onto Heimerdinger Jayce. And we'll lead off with Jack's Ornn. This is a tough spot. I typically try to play the Samira deck last. I just need a lot more experience with it. So I feel like if we have to play a deck twice, I feel really comfortable with Ornn, and I'm really happy with the amount of the amount of what's her name? The amount of Fizz that I've played over the past week. It's just the Samira deck. I played it a lot at the end of the last standard season, so it was like a month or so ago. And then I played it for like a day at the beginning of this season, and I haven't really put in the reps with it. So that's one of my agenda things over the next week, is to play a lot of Samira Pantheon before the next event hits, or kind of decide if we would prefer to play a different deck there. I can't imagine wanting to play a bunch of Norra mirror matches though, and so I don't think we'll be finding an extra one that way. Alright, but coming in here, we just need the stats. It's really awkward hitting the equipment like this, because I don't want to be putting the time and dedications into the Shepherd's Authority. It's just the worst equipment, but it's the only one that was going to let us not die to Mystic Shots here. So just slam in this big boy, see what kind of damage we can soak here. Alright, well, he's gotten 1 card. I mean, this is the perk of the Shepherd's Authority. If your opponent wants to take down that unit, he's capable of just manhandling, and so.
A broken thing is a waiting thing.
All right, I'm like eyeballing this fish fight. It's such a good one, but as we're coming up on this turn to where Sett could come down, have to be a little bit more cautious with our big unit over here. And so with this, if he's going to take a block onto a 2/3 and then put a removal spell onto the Castaway, I'm happy to spend a 3 Sisters in that sense. We get to deal 1,000,000 damage this way. And if he has the Concussive Palm to get through this, or a tag out to get through this, then fine, you did it. But there's a very real chance this just ends the game right here. So Concussive Palm. All right. We're gonna be loading up our Ornn with this Shepherd's Authority. It's not where you want to be. This isn't what you want to be doing. But I mean, it's the only equipment we've seen up to this point. Who needs to block anyways? It's pretty overrated as a game mechanic. Let's start clearing out this board. if it gets to the point to where we need to fish fight a Sett or fish fight a Karma, the game's probably just done anyways, and so not too worried about losing out on our dudes at this point.
Please tell us a story.
The spirit of the mountain was working at his forge.
Ever been to a blacksmith before?
All right, it's time for the big old weaponsmith's apprentice. Here comes the damages for certain. Ice Veil Archer, you're interesting, just not at this exact moment.
I made this hammer. It was so good I named it Hammer.
Alright, we got all the stats one could need, right? If he's got a tag out to send Ornn back to hand, we can still replay that Shepherd's Authority for pretty much infinite stats out here. It's not terrible. I'm saying this is not the way my day was supposed to go. just getting domed by the Shepherd's Authority.
Your attack is obvious.
Thank you. Thank you.
Gonna play that Sett now.
Drinks are
Nope.
cold and gossip's hot.
All right, we'll see what we draw. There's a lot of value in kind of switching over to the Ice Veil Cultist, but I think that we're so far from actually getting a lethal that we can't do it. We need to be presenting a ton of damage, because if we don't get a lethal next turn, then he just gets to play Karma on turn 9 and kill us on turn 10. So I think we're just kind of stuck dropping Ornn and then hoping that we can smash in for enough damage. We do have the potential to hook one unit out of combat, right? So if the stats line up okay, we could potentially look to. So these is bigger. Are they both 5/4s? Yeah. We could potentially hook this smooth mixologist out of combat, but we have 19 on board. That's a scary way to have to go about it, though.
Shaken or stirred.
We have to make him just spend more mana next turn. We can't let him come in and just play Karma. So I think we're going to start adding more dudes. Let's add the Ruthless Raider. We'll try and surprise him with the Cultist. If he has a concussive palm onto Ornn, then it kind of is what it is. I think the big deal here is making him spend mana and not letting him just play Karma for free.
What good are the War Mothers?
But as it stands, he puts a unit in front of the 5. We can deal 5 through the tail of the dragon. That's 5 and 3, 8, 15. We're 3 short. I think if he passes it back to us, we just have to pass the turn. Well, I guess not. It doesn't quite matter at this point, given that he can play Karma and then gain 8 off of the coins. It's going to be a little bit too short this game.
Nerves, boss.
Nah, wouldn't want to miss a second of the action.
To the forge.
Righty-tighty.
Alright, send him in. And when this spot, make sure you put your Ice Veil Cultist on the right. You don't want him being out here to the left, getting hit with the tail of the dragon and a mystic shot, and then all of our units losing Overwhelm. So make sure he's to the right. Let our artisans and the castaways hang on to their overwhelms. So it tags out the artisan, picks up the showstopper, that's fine. He does only have 3 cards in hand at this point. So if his hand isn't like Karma plus a card draw card, then we might be in pretty good shape.
What don't you sit this one out?
Might be. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. There's half of the puzzle.
My spirit is an unquenchable fire. Where there is life, there is hope.
Let's start with protecting this guy. We have to have something go right here. Like, if we just pass, it doesn't work. If we let him just drop showstoppers and kill off that unit, it doesn't quite work either. So, I think we can try and just get stats on board now, though. We can add Combat Cook, we can add Jax. And then next turn, we might be able to just continue flooding. Right, if he doesn't have a card draw, I feel pretty good about this turn. If as soon as he draws cards, though, we're probably just dead. We can't deal with him drawing 4 cards. Yeah. Shepherd's Authority, you have failed us. You have failed us. You can see where this strategy is, pretty reasonable against Karma Sett, right? Our value isn't in our units. Our value is in our equipment, and it can be tough for them to just have enough answers when all of your removal is damage based. But GG, we'll assume we lost that one. Move on to the next one. Alright. A lot of power in Bellows Breath, but it's not a card I really want to keep in our opener. We definitely needed to find an equipment to get a start on this game. Castaway, turn it up. So scary with him against these decks if you don't have the way to get the bonus health on him. That's what happened to us in the last game, right? The opponent killed off our Weaponsmith's Apprentice, and then we were running into that awkward spot to where if you just like run out the Castaway, you don't have time to get it up to 2 health. That's why we ended up with that 3-2 thing last game, is we didn't have the time to get the Castaway on board and then also boost his health up above 1. Just such a tempo loss if they kill that unit, and then you have to start replaying the equipment. This is usually just the 3-3, well, it has to be the 3-3, right? The Rite of Negation unit. I want to hang on to our Entrancing Lure. It's just too good in this space. Let's do this. We'll add in the Castaway. See if he's just gonna die. Right? Shepherd's Authority Part 2. And then the Jack should be safe. This deck doesn't really play combat tricks. Once they've played Conchologist, then you have to start worrying about stuff. But right now, I don't think there's any way his Shadows in the Brush will take down our Jacks. Alright, big damage hit though.
It just snapped.
Zingdus.
A broken thing is a waiting thing.
He's got to add something to the board. We have a real chance to just blow him up next turn, right? If he doesn't have a unit on board, we can hook the Shadows in the Brush into Jax. The Castaway will get Jax to flip, and then we'll just overwhelm a ton of damage through it. Uh-oh. It doesn't look good for you, Fam Jam. Let's send it.
Keep it moving, team.
Lefty Lucy. The craft sings.
Looks like a lethal. He's got to have a way to stun off the Piltover Castaway, right? He prevents a ton of damage if he can do that. What? Can't do it? Not enough?
And you know what? Also for me.
Feels good. That's what the games are supposed to look like, right? Get out of here, Lord Broadmain.
Gotta keep that light burning.
Right, game 3 coming in. Samira Pantheon against the Norra deck. I guess it should call it the Jhin deck, the Riptide Rex deck. Jax Nex. whatever the appropriate name is. I'm not certain with this Pale Cascade. We should probably keep it. It's just... I would rather just have an equipment. But it's such a good target onto the Sacrificial Scholar, and then if we pick up another 2-drop, it curves in kind of nicely. But this is a place to where it can be a little dangerous to throw down the Scholar and then assume that you're going to make it into the next turn for the Wandering Shepherd.
I seem to have
Okay, we'll make it now.
my self. Off we go. Who's still here, I wonder.
And now a Youngling. Much better than the Wandering Shepherd here. Let's just go ahead and lead off with the Lodestone first. If something weird happens and we need to play the Pale Cascade, I'd like to go ahead and get it down, but this turn feels like it's going to be a loss if we play the Shepherd, put whatever on the Scholar, and then opponent just pie tosses the Shepherd. That doesn't feel particularly strong at all. So you can potentially take the Scholar down here. I think if we get into this next turn, we're going to be feeling really good, though. Gonna look to add the Ballista just to make sure we have the Pale Cascade mana. It's tempting to hush the Norra. I think we're getting built up enough to where it's not quite necessary, but we could have certainly looked to have taken her down. Got a lot of portals in deck now, between the Junk Construct and then the two Norra hits.
Let us take a peek at life beneath the waves.
It's tempting to go ahead and just drop a Pale Cascade onto the Scholar. Like, we already have the target for the turn, which is nice, but like, it's just a nice little storage bin for these Pale Cascades, and we don't have a ton to do next turn. Like, I feel like if we come into next turn and want to open attack, then we're just not going to have opportunities to spend our mana. This looks a lot better. There's something to make it look worse. What is this going to be? You can't be disintegrating it. Double Electro Harpoon? This deck doesn't usually play Electro Harpoon. Interesting. He thought of something and then thought better of it. It's a 3/4. Okay.
Easy does it. Oh dear.
Well, there's no reason to get super invested in this thing now. Like, if he plays Broadmain, it's just gonna come in and die. But we got a bit of time before that happens, and then if we really need to, can just hush a Broadmain. And so we have the second one in hand. There's not a ton of good hush targets in this match, and so loading spells into the Sacrificial Scholar isn't a complete waste once he gets killed, right? We'll get the spells back once he's dead. So nothing wrong with having some Blessing of Targons for your time in need.
Do make chores easier.
Ew.
Ooh, the suspense is
This Rock Bear might be hitting the board fast.
Off we go.
got so many portals at this point. Alright, then this is our third spell on the Scholar. He's got the Furious Wielder, he's got a Pale Cascade, and he's got a +3/+3 all in the mix. Okay. Just need Overwhelm at this point. I think we need to pick up the Darkened Lodestone off of the Scholar and then see if we can't find a Scout or find an Overwhelm. Gotta have something. They both turn up.
What's this? A new flock.
He doesn't even zing the Shepherd? Wow, he's gotta have a Pie Toss or something in hand. No way he doesn't.
More hands make
No
quick work.
way. Not a bad draw on Pantheon. I don't really want to drop him this turn. I think I'm a little bit more interested in being able to hush a Lord Broadmane and then giving ourselves a couple of more turns to get this Pantheon up and running. Just too easy for him to hit a bad set of skills when we're not really close to winning the game. But I mean, if it gives us time to say next turn play a Harazi and then 2 turns from now add Pantheon and then let him grow to 7/7, then he's talking about being nasty.
Friends do make chores easier.
Maybe we do bring him in. It's just, if he doesn't hit Challenger, he's not going to do anything. Okay.
They're my friends.
Gonna see that flurry of spells come on the Sacrificial Scholar. Not yet. Not yet. Alright. It just feels like we might as well go ahead and get that extra point of damage in.
Be back tomorrow.
Cup of tea? Fine by me.
That's wild. I was looking at the Jhin and he's only played 1 skill up to this point. Or 1 spell up to this point. Everything else has just been like Portal Paloozas and units. That's insane. So there's just like no way he has a Broadmane and a Riptide Rex, right? It's just as we're coming up on turn 8 and he's already playing Condenses. Huh. That's strange. That's strange to see that come down. Oh, Jesus. Oh, this is gonna be some nonsense. Insane hit in the King's Court. Well, our angle to victory here is going to be killing off the Sacrificial Scholar, picking up the Fishawhack, putting the Fishawhack onto the Darkened Lodestone, and then making an Overwhelm attack that way. We'll see if we can pull it all off this turn. It's a scary spot to be in. It's just like, I don't know. Like, if he had Riptide Rex, you just attack with everybody, right? So I don't think we're gonna get nugged by Riptide Rex. I think we can just stop at 7, and then try and go from there. Like, if you had Riptide Rex, why would you play the Condensed last turn? Why wouldn't you attack with the Portal Scholar? It just doesn't make sense for me for that to be a card that's about to come out. it is kind of shitty playing against the playing against this deck and then having them hit prize fight in the deck that has all of the one health, the one damage pings. I have to imagine something like that still lives in his hand. Maybe we have to just wait until next turn before we try and put Harazi on the board. Like, we just have to give him some bait. I think that's the way we'll approach this here. Just there's no way that works out right. Even if he doesn't have some kind of kill with prize fight onto one of our units, if we play Harazi and then he just pops the spell shield, that's just such a disaster in itself. What's this stupid thing do? I guess I'm definitely glad we didn't. I guess I'm definitely glad we didn't drop the Harazi this turn. Insane set of hits off of Norra. Why don't you just hit some bullshit forecast card instead of just the literal insanity? Well, Pantheon hits Spell Shield in here, so this is the kind of hope and dream, is that we're able to get him to spew off a bunch of nonsense he doesn't actually need to play, and then he just doesn't see our angle that Harazi and this little Cosmic Youngling are going to be the real threat. The downside to having to take it this way, though, like what I was really hoping we were able to do next turn, is say on this turn we just play Harazi and load the equipment onto it. Then next turn we get to have, you know, the full 10 mana to mess around with. But you know, just don't have it at this point. Really insane. I mean, do we even have enough health to fight through this? I guess the Pantheon can hook the Mega T out of combat. That's another way for us to get in a couple more points of damage. Oh, this is fucking bonkers. I mean, I guess we can't complain too much given that the opponent didn't seem to have a removal spell the whole game, but at no point did they need it. Let's see where this gets us. Popped our spell shield. That can't be good, right? I'll go ahead and let you know. I'll let you know that's not good. It's not good. Not what you want to be seeing. Figured out what's about to happen. And so if we're hitting for 10, right, 10 and 10, 20 in total, he's gonna block with a 5 and a 4. We're gonna be 1 damage short. We don't have impact anywhere. All right, maybe he'll do something dumb. Should be pretty easy to figure out. There you go. Put your 4 healther out here. Easy peasy. Falls to 1. We do have a Samira kill though. We picked up Samira. If he falls to 1, we can play her and then drop the thing.
Can stall the reckoning.
It's an angle. It's an out. Alright, squeeze them cheeks, fellas. Squeeze them tight. I mean, as it stands, his board sucks, and so if he just brings an open attack, we can block this stuff. It's gotta be like pastry tossing the Harazi, though, right? Now he's got 7 on board. Keep squeezing, boys. Keep squeezing. Well, I guess an angle to the open attacks. We do have this Furious Wielder to try and take down. Are you not equipped? How are you not equipped? I guess we shouldn't have attacked with that other unit. I'm not even certain what we'd be able to draw here. Key block now. That one's probably on me. There was no reason to attack with that 5/3 unit that had the equipment on it. I was thinking of that as we did it. Is like I was hoping that we could just kind of get a bamboozle in there, but that was definitely probably like I'm not certain what actually hit there that didn't allow us to block with that thing at the end. Like the mini T makes it so your unit turns into a 3/3. It said something about a Yeti that was making it not able to block. I don't know what other bullshit card he hit there, but we still should have been in a spot to where we had 2 units on board, and then we could have blocked something, and then we could have Furious Wieldered onto the 8/3, and then we might have had enough health to survive. So it was a little sloppy. There's no denying that game was bullshit, but I guess you got a high roll at some point, and why not spend it on a Ruthless Rumble instead of a lottery ticket, you know? You know, I saw on the lottery sign today the Powerball's up to 600 million. If I'm gonna spend my luck for the year, it's not gonna be in a Ruthless Rumble. I'll tell you that for certain. It's not gonna be in a Ruthless Rumble. Insane. Like it didn't even go like that poorly, right? I mean, he hit the mini T, which wasn't horrible, but it's a ridiculous hit. It's like as you flip the Norra and you're able to start hitting 5, 6, and 7s, or 4, 5, 6, and 7s, whatever she hits, and to hit a 7 and a 7 being a mini T, and then the guy that generates prize fights in your deck full of 1 damage pings, like, whew, to have that even just, I don't know. I don't know if it was just. I saw like a wonderful comment from Drissoth maybe 2 months ago, as to where someone was just bitching about Albus Pharos and what a nightmare it was to have Albus Pharos just seemingly come down out of nowhere and steal a game from you when you're at like 11. And he was kind of like, well, that's not what happened. What happened was your opponent was planning the entire game around Albus Pharos coming down and dealing 12, and that was just enough to kill you, and you didn't have the foresight to recognize your opponent's game plan. And I'm curious, as a game like that like plays itself out to where opponent literally plays 0 spells the whole way, as to whether or not that was game plan or they were just doing something really fucking weird. But nonetheless, into the next one. Subchino's well deserved strong player here, but I'm not going to ban out the Evelynn Kaisa. Again, our decks all have silences and stuff. We're happy enough to deal with it. I think the Karma Sett deck is probably a little safer bet than the Norra deck. That's kind of tough. That's kind of close. I don't really have much respect for the Norra deck is kind of the problem here. Let's just go ahead and take out the Karma Sett. Like the thing I have with the Norra deck is all of our silences are still good against this deck, to where they don't do anything against Karma Sett, right? You will occasionally find a turn to where your opponent like plays Karma on turn 10 and then you just hush her, or your opponent has their Karma flip happen on your attack token starts and you hush Karma. Like those aren't like ridiculously crazy events to have happen, but there's just like so many relevant targets for silences coming out of this deck. I feel just a little bit safer dealing with it as opposed to dealing with the Karma deck. So here I'm just going to keep passing. This is a really awkward hand. The thing that I don't want to have happen is opponent just get kind of free reign on taking down our 1 health units. And at a certain point, you just have to say like, okay, well, I'm just going to have to start running them out, letting them die to group shots. But we picked up our Siren Song at a very opportune time, and now we'll be able to start getting the threats on board. So let's lead in with this pocket picker. I think we'd still want to get Fizz on board. He's kind of weak at this point, though. Maybe not. I mean, you don't have any backup for him, and we're playing Reaver's Row this turn. I don't think that there's a ton of value in adding Fizz right there. Okay. We'll move in on this Reaver's Row angle. Not a terrible idea to Sunburst the Norra next turn, but I kind of want to play Shell Shocker before that happens, and I don't think we're going to get the chance to do that. All right, so Shell Shocker in. Now we can come in and drop a Sunburst, and then we'll follow up with Fizz after the fact. I think that's okay. Definitely okay. Now the Sunburst will take opponent down to 3 units, and so with opponent at 3 units, he can't group shot our Fizz, and then next turn we can just start casting spells again. But the question is, which of these units do we actually want to kill, right? It's either coming down to the Portal Scholar or the Gnar. I think we just want to take the Gnar off of the board. Get him out of here. Now with 3 units, we can add Fizz. You get the big fearsome squad. Uh-oh. Hits a unit though. Wily Newtfish. Not so scared by the Newtfish. So, interesting thing with this turn. We're not going to be able to get the lethal, right? The best we'll do is like 15. But we can still just say hook Norra out of combat if we want. I think that's probably where we want to be taking this. Or we do have Playful Trickster. Maybe the Playful Trickster will give us the shot. Let's see how this goes. So I'm leaning towards just like letting this combat happen, letting the Zonite Urchin and the Hextech Handler trade with each other, and then playing Playful Trickster onto the wings in the wave. And so then the idea with this, so we'll see if he has any more cards after this, but the idea with this angle is we're dealing 10, and then we're still going to have the Challenger and the Pocket Picker. And so if he adds a unit to the board right now, we can hook that unit out of combat, and he won't have any fearsome blocks onto our remaining 10 damage. If he had a 1 damage ping, he needed to play it in combat right there. Just roll the dice on portal. Okay. Well, that is a scary 1 mana. Alright, seems like we're fine. GG. Good job, team. On to the next one. Oof. Good job, Fizz. Curious with this Evelynn matchup with I haven't actually played against the Kaisa deck too much. I dabbled with Kaisa as everybody was like, oh cool, Siren Song's a card, let's everybody in the world play Siren Song. But I was like, to a degree, I don't like playing Kaisa since it's just such a high roll in terms of actually getting her to flip, but she is such an incredibly powerful champion. Like, her, no denying that her ability is quite strong. And you do get some really strong one-cost units coming out of Shurima. You have the one-coster that generates an equipment, and then you have the predict unit, and so lots of very strong options out there. But here I'm going to add in the artisan before we attack. He didn't play anything relevant in the first turn. I was going to say, if he adds Norra, I don't think he's going to want to block. There's not a ton of cards out of this deck that are capable of making us not attack here.
Off we go.
Jax turns up. Kind of like adding him on board now, letting us bank that 1 mana. He's going to get the bonus from that thing, from the Weaponsmith's Apprentice. Then next turn we can play the Innovative Blacksmith and still look to either catch or Time and Dedication, or if he's going to have some kind of kill spell onto Jax, we can just replay the Light of Acacia onto somebody else. It's real tempting just to do the Time and Dedication now, right? I mean, I don't know. You're very healthy at this point. very, very healthy. We'll go with the Sandsworn Amulet over the Rake. It's going to be quite a while before the Rake actually does anything, and we've already spent all of our. We've already spent all of our forges, so at least letting the Innovative Blacksmith attack through the Fearsomes feels like a bit of a win. We'll try and take the Norra off of the board. I think our Jax is safe down here. Like, he can have a wallop in this combat, but it's tough to actually kill anything. Alright, looking strong.
I seem to have misplaced my, self.
The winter's claw strikes.
I'm gonna go with the Ruthless Raider. I worry with this next turn if we come in and just make an open attack, it's not gonna do anything. So if we have the Cultist on board, giving out those overwhelms as well, it's good. But let's bank up the mana, see what happens. Jax turns up. Safety net with the Forge there is a pretty big deal.
Noxians are not the monsters they make us out to be. You're gonna want to watch this.
Oh no, does he have the group shot as well? That sucks. That sucks. I mean, at least the Light of Acacia is big and we can just put it onto the Ruthless Raider. But it's a bummer.
Leave nothing standing.
That's a bummer.
You resist to the last.
Alright, now we got a... What do we got? A Darkness and Double Pastry up against the Broadmane? Ugh. I don't know. At least he hit a Flame Chompers in the mix there, but that's nasty.
Skip and a hop.
I've got this.
Interesting. I'll definitely take the free block, or that's not entirely free, but the Weaponsmith's Apprentice in front of the Mirai Warden makes sense. What's going on here? This is just a Riptide Rex costs 7 or 8. This is the problem we run into when we don't play these dumb cards. You don't know how much damage you're about to take. But we can't Unforgiven Cold out of this either way. The Norra is never going to
This is hot, you know.
get prevented.
I will tell you of Ornn.
It's coming in. The Riptide coming through. Then we have to add cards, right? He can just pass. Like, I know these perilous pastries are slow, but there's ways for him to cause problems. He does need to have a lightning rush to take down the Ruthless Raider, though. Or drop the bomb, 2 damage thing, sure. Coming at you. He's coming for you, Ice Veil Cultist. So we can't attack just yet. We have to get the other cultist on board. I don't know. It feels like this one's slipping away. Got so close in that game. All came down to that Jax turn. It's always real weird with Jax in the sense that when he's getting attacked like that, you have the opportunity to you have the opportunity to just not. You don't have to play the Forge card, right? You just let him die and then replay Jax, but it's always tough making that decision. At least a bummer for the Norra player here, right? Getting the Brash Gambler actually in hand. That's such a nutty hit with the off of a portal when she comes directly onto the board and you don't have to discard anything, but having her pick up in hand kind of sucks. Let's send him in. I think this game's done. We're probably just dead this game. We can't play the Bellows Breath. Like, the Lord Broadmane doesn't interact to where it's just going to kill all of our stuff, right? That's your fast spells, slow spells, and skills, so it has to be the opponent's spells actually doing the work. But as we come out and just damage all of our units, the Broadmane is essentially turned on at that point. And so you're not quite capable of playing a card like Bellows Breath. Now, at the end of this combat, we can maybe do it, right? If we put an equipment onto our cultist in the back line. Well, it doesn't have tough. So what's happening? We're dealing 1 damage? Okay, it's better than 0, I guess. Better than 0. Let's get into that game 3. See what it's like battling with Evelynn. Oof. Maybe we should just be banning out that Norra deck. I think there's 2 separate things there that you have to consider. Like, it's not just the Jhin deck, right? They're both doing the same thing in the sense that they're playing the Broadmanes and the Riptide Rexes and the Jhins. I think probably just need to say that if they're playing the Norra version, then it's probably a ban, and if they're just playing the Gnar version, then you can be a little greedier and not have to worry about the deck as much. I think that's probably what distinction we need to be making right there. But into this one, certainly happy enough with the Weaponsmith into Jax. I don't think we want to hang on to Bellows Breath. Like, the Kaisa deck is much more of a go tall deck than a go wide deck. I don't think we're going to get the targets for it. Decent curve now.
Kendall, did you wander off again?
Got that elusive Voidling right at the start.
My heroic last stance never seemed to stick.
Alright, get him, Jax.
Any takers?
Well, not a bad start. It's got the Siren Song. Sure does. But we might get our Jax to flip this round, and it's a reasonably good hook onto this Husk. Let's see, let's pick up the combat reel. That spot is awkward with a Pot of Pain. If you pick a Pot of Pain, your Jax isn't going to flip in this combat, so we don't really want it. We want to make sure that we get this full 12 damage in, because it's a big deal to have Jax flipped at this point, right? If our Jax gets flipped, the Light of Acacia picks up the Overwhelm, and then we can put the Light of Acacia onto Ornn as a way to give him Overwhelm as well. And so Pot of Pain would just be an absolute disaster in that spot. Can't really count on Iceveil Cultist to do everything. Although the interesting thing with Iceveil Cultist against this deck, against Shurima in general, is to the best of my ability, you can't quicksand away Overwhelm given from the Iceveil Cultist, right? And so if you let's give Challenger to Jax.
Keep it moving, team.
Use Jax to hook the Husk. This way we can overwhelm. Or no, we're not going to get to overwhelm, but won't take any extra damages here. But no, it's like I think it's a static effect, right? So the quicksand comes in and eliminates the overwhelm, but then it just comes right back because it's static. Pretty certain that's the way that it happens. I could be wrong, but I think I've had that interaction happen before.
How about we live a little?
All right, now Steam's online. Oh my gosh, are we gonna get this timeliest of Bellows breaths? We didn't stop the Evelynn from doing her thing, but we're gonna nuke the rest of this board. Dig that.
See what's beneath while I see what's
dig
inside.
that. Get these dum-dums out of here. Curious how big we get to get. Like, if he's gonna hook Evelynn, we can take her down with a catch. This is a tough one. I mean, Jax has done his job, right? The big value in Jax right now is this 3/3 Light of Acacia, and we can just put that on the Iceveil Cultist next turn. I think we just want to take Evelynn off of the board. Right, so we'll play the Cultist next turn, we'll load it up with the Light of Acacia, get an attack in there. On opponent's turn, we can add in Ornn. Hopefully that's enough to just finish.
What good are the War Mothers?
Got to get big, my dude.
Don't worry, it's not my first time.
Enough compromise.
Got him.
Scream for me.
Uh-oh. Oh, God. You got to worry about this nonsense. We're at least safe since we have the three sisters, but this is definitely a turn to where you can drop a Kaisa and have her copy the elusive and then come in with elusive Evelynn and elusive Kaisa and just deal a ton of damage. But we have the three sisters to combo break it if we need to. There she is.
Their every move just makes
Now, does
me
this actually kill us?
stronger.
Like, I think it's a valid question, right? gotta stop and determine. So I mean, it's 8. What is this? 8 plus 5. That's 13. We can block things like Dark Enthrall. It's not a big deal. Let's just keep passing until he actually attacks, right? I think we can probably get away with that. There's no way he just passes the turn back, right?
I'll show you how to fight.
So now off of a supercharge. That's still just not enough, right? It's like 8 plus 5. It's 13. Looks like Kaisa has like 3 keywords. Sure. I'll allow it.
Good. Yes.
So we'll see if that quicksand thing comes up next turn. I'm pretty certain that the quicksand doesn't do anything through the Ice Veil Cultist. So I think we're okay.
I love it when they
Hopefully we don't have to find out the hard way that we're not right. But I think we're good coming into this next round.
That was hot.
That was hot.
This feels right.
My arrows fly
Hi,
true.
get in there, squad.
Here comes my molten friend.
Molten Friend activated. Send him on in.
I've got eyes.
Looks like 20 coming through. 20 into 7 should be a lethal. Turns out it is. GG. It's nice getting to take that that pinnacle of battle board against each other. you don't get to run the pinnacle of battle board into too many people too often. It's like a lot of the people that do go deep into the day 2 of seasonal still just play the basic green board. So it's nice to get to see it back to back. GG. Ooh, all right, next battle. See what turns up in the Ruthless Rumbles. I've seen interesting anecdotes that the Ruthless Rumbles are the actual Runeterra Open. They're much more challenging than the Runeterra Open itself, and I've had kind of mixed thoughts on the matter. It's just a matter of a roll of the dice, if you will. But you'll occasionally catch an easy run through either event. Occasionally you'll run through the top of the ladder in either event as well. And so it's interesting. The one thing I did note in playing last night is I felt like playing the Runeterra Open, the queue would always pop in like 15 seconds. And I know that there's like a lot of complaints in the Runeterra Open as people will get a easier path. I tried to put air quotes on the little thing there, but it doesn't always do the best job of matching you up against people with the same record, and so it's interesting to me in that sense. But nonetheless, interesting lineup from Pushy Pie here. I immediately kind of lean towards the Fizz. I'm fine with playing all of these decks against elites. Like, it's certainly losable to elites, but I think all of these are fine. The Scouts deck gets trucked by Jax Ornn. I wouldn't be surprised to see this have to be a Jax Ornn ban, but it's quite strong against the likes of Samira Pantheon, and so I'm curious how that's all going to play out. I think I still feel pretty safe against either Demacia deck, though. Like, one of the problems that you run into these days with playing Demacia decks and Champion Strength is like, if you Champion Strength 2 units and then I have a Silence for 1, then it's not very effective. Or if you Champion Strength 4 units and I have the Silence, the what are you called, the Moonlit Affliction for 2 of them, like, it's just such a reasonable way to come in and counterspell the Champion Strength that it worries me about its effectiveness. But nonetheless, pretty weak start. None of the suspects we're looking for made an appearance at the beginning. I think I'm gonna just start slowing this game down as much as we can. Like, the way that I think these Scouts decks typically run is they'll play 3 Inspired Lights, 3+2/+2s, and 3 Champion Strengths, and so they're really trying to lean heavily on just generating a full board. And so I think it's okay to come down with a unit on the first turn there and make the trade, just try to slow them down a little bit. But we did hit the Siren Song. Now we're ready to party. There is some argument that, well, I guess with the Shell Shocker it doesn't matter, but there is some argument for our turn there to want to just play Eye of Nagakoboros to dig for the Siren Song. But with that mana coming back, it wasn't as relevant. Hitting elusive. Don't mind, don't mind whatsoever to load up the Divine Clerk with elusive. We can come in and sunburst this blocking Badger Bear next turn, and then hopefully just take over the board with this thing. I'm ready for the life gain. Bestow it upon me, please.
With a little help, I made you
Bring it upon me.
a slight adjustment.
All right, here comes that width. Gotta worry about this a little bit. If he comes at us with an inspired light, this is still a board that we have to give some credit to. Our hand does not like what's happening here.
Needs a finishing touch.
Captain's orders. Bullet to the face.
Take 6. Very flooded in the top end of things. But I think we're okay if he also has the champion strength to go with this, then we're going to be dead. We're not going to be able to challenge this board enough. But if he doesn't have the champion strength, then I feel pretty okay in this spot. I'm just going to add in the Reaver's Row to get the units flowing. So we'll have 3 units on board next turn. I assume he's not going to just open attack, and he's probably going to come at us with the scouts and everything, but I like having this opportunity to have 3 units on board, then I have Nagakaboros into the unit, and then play another one. It's like if we completely whiff along the way there, we're just gonna get trucked. Prob's about to get trucked anyways, but the 4 Demacia is gonna be strong.
Stand strong.
What do we got? Reaver's Row and Pool Shark.
All unbelievers will see the light.
Blessed is Mosha.
Got us covered.
Man, our blocks are just all so bad here.
Nuh-uh.
The guilty will burn.
Could take the 5 off the crack shot. It's like all of his other units are just bigger than the crack shot. So I think we're stuck letting that come through. I don't think we can stop this though. I guess we're not going to be dead next turn. Or dead this turn. We'll only be taking 8. Or we'll take 5 at worst. No, we're taking 6. Crack shot Corsair is going to get us for exacties here. Boom. Good job, Scouts. You gotta love seeing Scouts come through like that. The Scouts was the first deck I really picked up when we switched over from Expedition, and so I'm always glad to see it survive, see it thrive, see it do its thing, see Misfortune come out and have a strong day. But all right, on to the elites. What do we got? I'm gonna do the same thing here. Gotta find some of that strength. Our units don't really line up well against the elites if they don't have any of the bonuses, and so we'll do a little bit of digging. So we can add in the Pocket Picker, we can add in the Pull Shark, and then next turn if we hit a Siren Song, we can still play it. We already have 1 Reaver's Row in hand, and so pretty low chance that we actually hit a card we can't play next turn. Alright, Shell Shocker, you're up.
If I didn't forge it, you won't want it.
I think we can drop the Divine Clerk. He's not going to do a ton. I mean, I guess we could look to just go ahead and attack with him. It's going to be a fairly straightforward block with Cytherea. But just draw Siren Song as well. That was not how I foresaw that going. But I think we're still good to do this. Let's just send.
I'm
All
ready.
right, we'll take the trade. Interesting form up. Hanging on to that Cytherea, not what I was expecting, but I think we're still good to drop Reaver's Row here. We'll Siren Song next turn, and then as we come back on our next attack token, we'll have the full board with everybody double boosted.
For justice, for Demacia.
And we want to clear out a little bit of space, right? I mean, we don't have to take the damage, but these units are all just going to be so big. All right. Lose out on the husk, but all the big boys ready to battle today. Ready to battle.
What's this?
Where's the artillery?
Fear
Right,
is
send
the
'em.
first of many foes. Hold fast.
And the judgment. Oh man, that's sick. That's sick right there. We can take him down to 5/5. That's not quite enough. Otherwise, we can give something. We can take the Shell Shocker up to 6/7, and then it can fight Garen and survive. So at least still have a unit on board. Then we still have this 4/4 back at home as well. So we got plenty of refill. It would have been cool to just win the game right there, you know, but that would have been cool. But I don't think we're completely out of it just yet. I got trucked. This is like I've been getting. I can't remember if it was on video the last time we just got trucked by Judgment, or if it was something else. But it's in my recent memory for some reason that the Judgment has just come through and completely annihilated me, and so it's never the physical card. It's always just the second copy of Garen, though. Maybe it's worth a singular copy in these decks. Then I guess you go up to play against the broad main deck, and you're just like, nope, not what I wanted.
We tend the fire and hope for her return.
All right, well, not bad. We picked up this other Siren Song. I don't think we're too amped about it, but we're coming on board hard next turn. Not going to be getting this Moonlit Affliction kill. That's what I was hoping as we kind of wore down that board with him only having 2 units. Inspired Light. Okay. So I'm curious if that still warrants an attack, since a lot of these units aren't big enough to take down the Divine Clerk. Taking down the Tentacle is okay. Let's see what we can do. don't think the bonus stats from the Solari Soldier really matter. Let's just lead off with this Eye of Nagakaboros. See where that gets us. I don't think we're going to be doing much this turn. I think that we're really just attacking with the Divine Clerk. And then we're going to have to look to make a silence play on the next round. You feel good about that? Not really. Doesn't really feel good. He's only got the one good block at the moment with Vanguard Squire. Badger Bear changes that math a little bit. Get a Challenger Husk. Alright.
Proud warriors of the sun.
Sitting here thinking if you have to worry about concerted strikes, right? That's not a that's not a thing anymore. That's not a place to be worrying, and so
Justice light my way.
send everybody.
You don't scare me.
So if he has a +2/+2 to take down the clerk, it's okay. Just taking us back up to 20 feels pretty good. If we trade for both the... Interesting. Just to prevent the overwhelm damage. Okay. Alright, incoming champion strength. But we can survive this reasonably well this time, I think. Between the silences that we have, our units just being bigger this time around as well.
Raise your weapon, Sunwood.
Are unfortunately going to lose our overwhelmed clerk, though.
I've got just the thing for you.
Now that's interesting. I just kind of immediately assumed that we were going to be like we can do this, right? We're looking at taking 14 off of these. We can silence these two, take the vanguards down to 2 1s. Right? So our 2 units out here will survive. And then we'll still have 2 blockers for when he comes back in.
No mercy for heretics.
Let's go ahead and block with the soldier just in case, so we can take down the battlesmith if he attacks in.
I don't make them for the show.
And we'll look to trade away the tentacle. I want to open attack next turn, and so we'll get the extra tentacle on board that quick. All right. Victory unlocked, though. Well done, Fizz. On with Samira. Let's see if Samira gets completely smoked by a judgment this game. Oh, that was savage. That was brutal. I don't know if you're allowed to get mad. I don't think I can get mad at that. You gotta give props to Garen whenever Garen pops off, and so can't get that mad. Ew, that was not a nice mulligan. Gotta find a dude. Aatrox is happy with all the equipment we have, but haven't found the friends to go along with them. Certainly found all the equipment though.
It's dangerous out there. Take this.
Alright, battle time. It's a friend. Can't be out here sacrificing yourself if no one knows that you've done it, right? can't have it happen like that. Alright, we'll just cycle around the equipment, make the scholar a little bit bigger. He's gonna get trucked, but can at least survive this combat. We have a couple of strikes, and so if it does come around to a later turn, we'll be able to do something with him, but just not having any units here has been a bit disastrous. Just a little bit. That's not a unit either. I did the mathematics on that one. Let's just pass and see what happens. Maybe we'll get to strike a bigger one down with the wielder, and then if we 3-bank into next turn, it's not horrible. We'll have the mana to play 2 strikes if we really want to, so we can stop 3 units, but I mean, I think we need something to go right at this point, and getting to, you know, Furious Wielder, something a little bit better, I think has some merit to it. I don't think this deck plays Chain Vest. I definitely don't want our day getting ruined by a Chain Vest out here. And Samira comes to the party. Not super ideal in this space. Just not capable of
No need to make a name for
surviving a
myself.
lot of combats.
Just an impression.
I've got just the thing for you.
So, I mean, I think we have to give up on Samira here. The way I'm looking at this one is we can block Bard with our 5-2. We're going to play Brutal Skirmish. That's going to take the Scholar up to 6-3. So 6-3 can then fight one of these 2-2s, survive, take down the Bard. I think what we're going to do is just say, if you got the +2/+2, then you got it, and you get the kill on us, because we need something to go right. And so we're going to have this guy block here. We're going to Brutal Skirmish on this. Then we can take a kill down here at the end. Fall to 2.
Is this your best?
We can prevent more damage, though. Like, I don't... it's tough to decide if we ever win this game without a Samira around. Alright. But yeah, I mean, we could prevent extra damage. There's a few different ways to do it. We could technically just be taking 4 this round, right? We could block a Bard with a 6-3, then kill off a unit in the middle, but that game went so poorly, I feel like we just had to have something go right. And, you know, coming out against a relatively aggro deck when you draw 2 units and 4 equipment, it's just not going to cut it. So, it's one of the downsides to having it set up like this, but well done by Pushy Pie. Glad to see the Demacia units carrying their weight. And that is going to be the end of our battles today. And so we can pull this up, talk about it a little bit more. I still think this lineup's, you know, pretty reasonable. I don't like, I guess, the thought that we weren't giving Norra enough credit. I think that if we could kind of go back and redo that, then I would feel better in that space, to where we were banning out Karma Sett as opposed to banning out Norra. That was one of our losses, and Norra was just a real pain in the dick throughout the entirety of the event. I don't think that that's something that we're looking to leave up. That's a place I found myself in a lot in the past, is just being like, well, we'll just ban the Norra deck and go from there. But typically when you're up against the Norra deck, our decks have a bit of weight against it, since we have a lot of like tough cards from the Ornn deck and the like. But I think that was our problem there. And then I'm not certain what like Team Pushy Pie is coming up with. Is like, that was clearly a lineup designed to pick on the Mount Targon Fizz deck. And if that is what like the pro teams have come up with to pick on the Fizz deck with, you have to feel exceptionally good about that. And so I feel like that was a great set of matchups for us. They have to absolutely be terrified by Jack's Ornn. Jack's Ornn annihilates the entirety of that lineup, and so you know that that's where your ban is going to have to be. And then those matchups against the Mount Targon Fizz deck, while it does feel like Scouts is slightly favored, and it seems like by the stats the Garen deck is probably slightly favored as well, they aren't favored enough to have like a really compelling lineup against it. And so I feel pretty good in that space as well. The spot that I feel, kind of rough with is the Samira Pantheon deck. And I feel like we can probably find something a little bit different there. It's tough for me to decide if it's a space to where I just need more experience with Pantheon, or if the deck's just not as strong enough as we need it to be. It still feels like we should be in a format right now to where Samira is still exceptionally strong, but it's just a matter of finding like the proper Samira deck, and I feel like she has to be kind of tied in with Targon, because to me it feels like such a bad space to be in to not play Targon in this format. Just the access to all of the silences is so incredibly powerful. Like even in that that last set of matches there, like it showed up exactly as we were playing against the champion strength, as to where it's not your game plan. You're not like, oh boy, I get to play a silence against champion strength today. That's not a good strategy to be carrying around. But as an incidental, right, as your deck being like, well, I'm playing all of these silences because of the Siren Songs decks, but it is incidentally good against these champion strengths. It is incidentally good against Alawi. It is incidentally good against like things like Kaisa Garen. That it's very strong and nice to have access to these in these formats, especially as they're going to be coming out, and there's going to be people trying to play Triple Siren Song. There's going to be people trying to play various Evelynn decks, and I don't think the silences really deserve to leave. And so, especially the number of times I've silenced a Karma, and then the opponent just concedes. And so it's kind of nice in that sense. And so I've struggled with that third deck. I know we aren't playing Targon in the Freylord deck. The Freylord deck has a lot of similarities in that sense with the Frostbites, but I feel like there should be a place where Samira is good, and that place is not with Jinx, and that place is not with Fizz. And so I'm not certain if it still exists or not, but I feel like the weak link to this lineup is the Samira Pantheon deck, and I can't decide if that weak link is just because I need to play 100 games of the deck, or if it's because it's actually just not good. And so that's probably the one that we'll be looking to replace as the Rumbles go on. But I suspect our next video is going to be playing this exact same lineup in another Rumble, and we'll see how it goes, see how it still feels there, because I feel like it's, as you run into a lot of these best of 3 events, you have one deck that you're just going to have to play like 8 and 9 and 10 times because it just never gets banned. And I feel like this is a lineup where that's going to happen, as to where people are going to be really heavily having the Fizz deck in mind as to whether or not they're going to leave it up or leave it down. And then I would say the vast majority of the time that Fizz gets left up, the opponent just bans out Ornn. And so it really leaves us in a space with this last deck, and to having some real identity with what we're going to be doing there. But nonetheless, good set of games, great set of opponents, great set of battles. I had fun. I hope you did too, because that is going to do it for us today. And so I hope everyone enjoyed the video. Hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way and had a good time watching. This is Bust, and we thank you for being here.